Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be here and to follow Andy. And I'm a member of the London Assembly, and I'm a London-wide member, so I'm in my comfort zone anywhere in Greater London, but I do try not to stray outside too much. And it's really wonderful to be able to be here and to speak and to support Papa, who I met I think about 2 years ago, before obviously he published the book. And it's been wonderful to see this project develop. And it's a beautifully written book and extremely timely. I just wanted to start by quoting, if I can find on the page. It says, "The truth is we are not all homeless yet." And it talks about how I think people sometimes see homeless people as it's something that will never happen to them, or homeless people are a sort of alien species or something like that. It's not true. Any of us could be homeless at some point in our lives, and in fact I think for most people are only a couple of paychecks away from being homeless. And we need to think of homeless people as people just like us. And we also need to construct the system that we have in a way that is going to support people when they do fall on hard times. I think some of this goes back to the old tropes about the deserving and the undeserving poor. That there's a certain group of people who will end up like that and a certain group of people who won't. And I think that's a convenient fiction for certain people. But actually, we need to be moving ourselves as a society away from that, and towards a society that will support people when they fall on hard times. And the state of our housing and our housing situation has so many knock-on effects on other areas of our lives, on health, both mental and physical, on children's education, if children are being brought up in temporary accommodation where there's no room to do their homework quietly. It has a huge and massive impact. And we have enough to be anxious about in our lives without being anxious about our housing situation, about being anxious about whether our children are going to get asthma because there's mould on the wall, or whether we'll be able to afford to pay the rent at the end of the next month. And it's so important that we get to grip with these issues. And homelessness, of course, there are many different types of homelessness, and that's something that comes through in the book. There's the very visible tip of the iceberg, the people that we see on the street sleeping rough. And as Andy pointed out, that number, well, certainly in London, there's more than doubled since 2010. There are people who are housed, that we don't see, who are housed in temporary accommodation. Hundreds of thousands, 200,000 families have temporary accommodation in the country, of which 140,000 are children. The impact that has on children's development is absolutely appalling. And then there's the hidden homeless, the people who are sofa surfing, the people who are sleeping on friends' or families' couches. We did a piece of work on this in the Assembly's Housing Committee recently. We heard about people sleeping in airports. People, of course, who sleep on public transport, and the Mayor has created a new task force to try and find these people and ensure that they can be helped by our services. And as Andy also said, homelessness is not an inevitability. There are political choices that we can make to end homelessness. We are one of the richest countries in the world. There shouldn't be anybody on the streets. There shouldn't be anybody living in temporary accommodation in these so-called bed and breakfasts, which of course they're not the sort of bed and breakfasts you go and stay in by the seaside on holiday. These are places run by people who make an awful lot of money actually off the taxpayer to house people that really we should have enough council and social housing to be able to house people in. These are political decisions that are made. The homelessness minister said recently that she didn't know why homelessness was increasing. Now, I don't believe that. We know why homelessness is increasing. The National Audit Office, not a party political body, has stated very clearly that one of the biggest drivers, the biggest driver behind the rise in homelessness has been government welfare policy, cuts to benefits. The biggest cause of homelessness is now the end of a private tenancy. So we have to sort out the welfare system to support people. And as I come back to the point that I made, we could all be homeless at some point. If you want to make it about, just about self-interest, at any single point someone could become homeless. and would need that support. We also have to sort out the insecurity in the private rented sector, where we only have tenancies that are 6 months or a year, where you could be kicked out at 2 months at notice without even any reason by the landlord. We have to give people security. And of course, the biggest piece of the jigsaw, which Andy also mentioned, was ensuring that we get to grips with the supply of genuinely affordable housing in this country. Before the early 1980s, we were building, councils were building about half, between a third and a half of all the homes that were being built every year in this country. Since then, that's gone, the gap has never been filled. And we have to get back to a situation where we're building a large amount of low-cost housing with secure tenancies for people to live in, so that people aren't pushed into the private rented sector, the insecure private rented sector, and onto the streets. We can solve this problem, but we need to make the political decisions that will allow us to get there. So that's all I have to say. I'm looking forward to sort of the debate and answering any questions. Thank you.